We're reading Rebbe Nachman's wisdom. We're on his pilgrimage. 24. On the first day of Chol HaMoed, the Rebbe's attendant returned to the sage's house. The sage advised him to smuggle all their money out of the ship so that the captain would not be able to steal it. This accomplished, the sage went to the captain together with two prominent members of the community. They said, "Give us the 2 Jews you are holding." "What business do you have with them?" the captain replied. "When they come on board, they belong to no one." The captain proceeded to tell them about all the trivials that had befallen them on the way. He added, "What I told you is nothing. During the entire voyage, there was not an instant without distress. We could have drowned these 2 or sold them to Arabs long ago, and all their money and possessions would have been ours. No one at all would have said a word or complained. But now, what can I say? These 2 must have luck that reaches to the high heavens. First of all, Hashem performed a miracle that the ship found its way here. This would have been enough. But then there was another miracle within a miracle, and God made me crazy enough to actually bring one of them into the city. After all this, I really have no right to their money, so give me 200 talers to satisfy my crew and take them." They gave the captain the sum, and the Rebbe and his attendant were saved. They were redeemed from death to life, from captivity to freedom. 25. The Rebbe and his attendant were brought to the city. As they walked through the streets, some Turks remarked that they looked like spies. The members of the community were highly alarmed. They immediately brought their guests their style of clothing and had them dressed like other Jews in Rhodes. The Rebbe's attendant took it as a joke, but the Rebbe was very troubled. He told his attendant, "Don't you know that a great complaint is being directed against us on high?" He then told his attendant some wondrous secrets, but the latter would never reveal them. The Rebbe was received by the local rabbis and impressed them as being a very unique person. His mood became very joyous, and he said, "Thank God that we were worthy of being rescued this way." They stayed in Rhodes until after Pesach. The Rebbe was treated with great honor. The community paid the ransom of the 200 talers out of their own pockets, and even though the Rebbe had sufficient funds, they would not let him repay them. After the festival, the community booked them passage on the ship to Istanbul. It also provided them with a letter asking all the communities along the way to help them if necessary. Many Greeks were on their ship, and the plague broke out among them at sea. The Rebbe and his attendant did not know the cause, but they saw people dying all around them. But Hashem was with them, and a strong wind carried the ship rapidly to Istanbul. The high waves in great speed distressed them, but the fact that the ship traveled so quickly saved their lives. The ship arrived in Istanbul after only 3 days at sea, and they remained there another 10 days. But even here, they were not out of danger. They had not shown their passports when they arrived, and now officials would not let them leave. The only solution was to obtain a passport from the Sultan, but the official demanded an exorbitant sum for such a document. The amount was so great, it was absolutely impossible for them to pay it. But Hashem was with them. They happened to meet a total stranger who agreed to help them. He went to the Turkish minister and wheedled what they needed from him. They had no idea how much he had paid for it, but the stranger obtained a document allowing them to pass through the gate and leave the city. He cautioned them, "For God's sake, don't breathe a word about this." They escaped Istanbul safely and traveled to the Sea of Galatz. Along the way, they landed on an island and were held as prisoners. They were freed only after a fine of 4 rubles had been paid for each passenger. The rest of their voyage was relatively peaceful, except for a few storms at sea. They passed a ship filled with Greeks and saw it break up and sink. Only a handful of passengers survived. God guided them towards their destination, and they arrived safely in Galatz for the festival of Shavuot. 26. On the way home from Galatz, they passed through Asi, and encountered a great plague there. The epidemic had spread all around to the surrounding towns, making travel most difficult. It also caused them considerable trouble when they tried to cross the border. Coming from a plague area, even remaining in quarantine was not sufficient to let them cross. But God was with them. They were led safely through it all, and they had seen plague and sword and famine, thirst and captivity. But Hashem helped them. They returned home safely. They returned completely intact in body, possessions, and Torah. For in the Holy Land the Rebbe was worthy of attaining a wondrous lofty perception, and his vision knew no bounds. 27. All that we have told is less than a drop in the sea of all the anguish and terror the Rebbe suffered during his pilgrimage. The great danger is beyond description, but Hashem was with him, performing awesome miracles every step of the way. He was worthy of attaining his goal and returning home safely. He entered in peace and left in peace, and returned home in peace.